You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me.
Hey friends, yes indeed, this is Unsealed, the official podcast of Wings of the Eagle. I'm Christopher, hopefully your friend, your humble servant. I happen to be a pastor, but that's okay. Hope you don't mind. And I'd love to see you here today, and thank you for joining. Please let me know who you are, where you're from, and please do share this video right now. That would be amazing. If you did that, it'd be really helpful. For people to see that this thing exists, that there are Christians talking about this phenomenon that's going on in an intelligent, hopefully an intelligent, balanced way. That's obviously we want to keep it biblical, but also want to use our common sense and not make assumptions about anything, because that doesn't help anyone ever. It doesn't help us as individuals. It doesn't help the church generally. It doesn't help people who don't believe. And that maybe that's you. They're not convinced of the truth of God or of Jesus as the Son of God, or that he rose from the dead and paid the penalty of your sin. All that stuff, they don't want to believe, or they can't believe all that, because we Christians give a terrible witness. And we have a bad history of assuming that we know stuff when we don't. Especially when it comes to the world around us and the universe that we live in, and space travel, or ideas like that. We're just not doing well. And so if we're seeing we're at a point in history where there are many provable, it's not made up, it's not prosaic, as we say, there aren't other explanations for normal things, that yes, there are anomalous phenomena all over the world. And the assumptions don't help. And so I was just thinking, hey, Madam Rex, what's up? Thank you. Nice emojis. I like that. So yeah, by the way, no matter where you're watching, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, the X platform, or the End Time Church app, please do tell someone about it. Would really appreciate that. I got my PB thin UFOs to eat. What? Peanut butter thin UFO? What the heck? Every time we go on, Bond Servant makes me very hungry, because she's baking up something good. Something is definitely going on. Yeah. Regardless. All right. So what I wanted to do, hopefully, those who care about what the Bible says can approach this in a responsible way. And to me, the way I learn very quickly is seeing a list. I see something visual where I'm presented with, instead of trying to remember stuff, just make a note. And this is not exhaustive, but if you're on YouTube, I think Facebook as well, but YouTube definitely will have in the description below this list of things that I'm about to go over. And this is just kind of off the top, a consultation with another Christian, like, hey, did I miss anything on this? So it's just basically going to go through the list of what you would call anomalous phenomena in the Bible. Right? What we would call something that we can't explain, should be impossible, or some kind of intervention from this unseen world that created some kind of, again, an anomaly is just something you can't readily explain. We don't understand how it happened. It's not normal life, right? It's not something that we can maybe reproduce. It's weird, and we didn't do that at all. Maybe there's some other force or person or thing behind it. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these real quick. If you have anything to add, you can go ahead and just tell me now, or just at any point today. If you're watching live, of course. If you're listening on the podcast, on audio, I love you just the same, but obviously you can't participate live here, but you're always welcome to put a note wherever you're watching or listening, or get me on the X platform at Manti4, MANTEI4. Okay, so let's go through these things and see what we find. But before we do, Bond Services just read an article earlier on Daily Express about Nick Pope. He sure is interesting. He is interesting. Yeah, I'm glad I got a chance to meet him a couple months ago. Was it a month or two or so? Just not too long ago. He was in my neck of the woods, so went and said hello. And asked him basically about what I care about, is why we're doing this Unsealed podcast in terms of this UFO business, is because ultimately, I would love to know the mystery like everyone else, but I'm concerned about souls. I'm concerned about the state of believers or non-believers, or their eternal destiny type of stuff, right? And the church losing faith and becoming an apostate because you're seeing things, or maybe you're a witness to something, or maybe you hear explanations from Christians that are just false, and it drives you away from God, and you reject Christ because at some point, because of what happened. So we don't want that, right? No one wants that. You should not want that. Anyway, let's get to this list and see what we find. All right. Again, if I missed anything, let me know. Okay, so I just went as a Genesis to Revelation type of incidents where what I would call an anomalous phenomena or unseen realm interaction. Okay, in other words, God speaking to a prophet or someone directly, I'm not including. This has to include a third party, basically, or some kind of miraculous event beyond one person, God speaking to someone. All right, so here's what I've got. Genesis 6, the famous Genesis 6 incident where the fallen angels, what they call the Bene Elohim, the sons of God, came to the daughters of men. So they were fallen angels impregnate human women to produce giants. That's weird. Okay, that's not normal. That's anomalous, right? So that happened. And what I want to do with this is go through and see whether you would term it a positive or negative event. Or in other words, is it God or good, beings behind it, or evil? All right, so that's clearly evil. Fallen angels impregnate women, produce giants. All right. 3 men sent to Abraham, 2 go on to Sodom. This is the famous incident of course, I believe this is a Christophany or a theophany, fancy word for Jesus appearing before he was born, with 2 angels, and they hang out with Abraham for a bit, and then 2 of them go on. Remember, there's this whole discussion with Abraham and this third person, and so on. It happens to be God. And then these 2 angels go to Sodom, like Sodom and Gomorrah, the whole destruction. Anyway, that whole incident, clearly, that's a good thing, or that was God and his angels, even though the destruction of cities wouldn't necessarily be a good thing. But the point is that who was this phenomena? Who were these people who appeared out of nowhere, by the way, right? Abraham just saw them, boom. And then they were just gone, boom. Well, they were called angels in the Sodom version, or by the time we got to that part of the narrative. So anyway, let's just say God and 2 angels showed up, and obviously those are good. Okay. Moses in the burning bush, clearly very famous incident. And what happened there? We have a bush that didn't burn. It was on fire, or it appeared to be on fire, but it wasn't actually being consumed. That's what it says. And we know it says the angel of the Lord was actually in the bush, so forth and so on. So clearly not a negative situation, but it's supernatural. It's anomalous. Okay. Bushes burn down. They don't just keep on burning and not be destroyed. And that was not normal. Okay. So obviously that's anomalous, and that's positive, or a God moment. Plagues on Egypt. Again, the result of the plagues on Egypt were not positive for Egypt or for Pharaoh, but obviously God was behind it, and he used Moses to deliver the warning, and then the to deliver the actual plague, whether using the staff of Moses or whatever. Obviously God was behind that, and they were very intentionally anomalous things, like the frogs and the bugs and the water into blood and all that, the darkness and right, of course, the firstborn son being the culmination judgment there, with that led to the created the Passover, the first Passover, and all that stuff. So that was obviously from God. We know it's a very famous story. So the plagues on Egypt, supernatural, anomalous stuff, but from God. Again, not evil. Okay, now then during that, though, remember, there was, at least limited wise, there was some there were pharaohs, what they call magicians, or basically the Pharaoh had servants that could do anomalous things. They could reproduce some of what Moses was showing, or what God was doing through Moses. Right, the staff became a serpent, and then but then Moses' serpent ate the other serpents. They even tried to do the blood thing in the water. So there's some ability there, for sure. That's not normal. That's not man's power. There's some kind of otherworldly or unseen power or realm. Maybe it's demonic. Seems like it. Like evil behind it, but it was very limited. But the point is, it happened. So we're going to say Pharaoh's magicians, limited abilities, that's evil. Okay, so then obviously after that, we have various things that happened with Israel as God delivered them from Egypt. Of course, the Red Sea parting is the most dramatic of that. And clearly that's a natural event, and God was certainly the cause of that. And then you could even include, if you want, I didn't put it there, but the pillar of fire by night and the cloud by day, right? What was actually there that Israel in the wilderness was following around, and when it moved, they moved, and when it didn't move, they camped. Like that whole thing that goes in with this, the Red Sea also, but that was obviously all God, right? It was good. It was for good reasons. Here's my man from India checking in. Bless the Lord for you, man. Thank you. Yes, it is evening by where you are. Sorry, it's a little later here than I normally start this podcast. Just couldn't be helped today. And the bondservant also was saying many believers freak out about this. It just isn't in them to consider this. This meaning this whole topic. Like, what is this? What is this all about? Okay, so now we've got, so that's good. So now we've got a pretty good going here through book of Exodus, basically. Very famous incidents. So we've got, most of them are positive. Most of them are God events, or the good side of things. Okay, so let's proceed. So the children of Israel now have gone on and do their thing. They're going through the desert. They're about to enter the promised land. And then there's this guy Balaam, remember, who tries to get hired basically to curse Israel, and he's like, I can't do that because God is with them. Like, it's not possible. Like, I can't override that. But then he's on a donkey, remember, and then the donkey actually won't move. She stops and won't carry him onward past this point of through the rocks and all that. And it turns out that she's not moving because the angel of the Lord is visible to her, the donkey, but not to Balaam, the man. So again, we have an unseen entity that's a human can't see, but an animal can. That's relatable, right? I mean, there are times and things even today, even with, I'm thinking of cow mutilations, and you're right, we've got videos and stuff thanks to Skinwalker Ranch that a cow may be able to know something is up there, or in the sky, where where a human can't perceive it. Anyways, so we know it's very documented that, animals can sense like major weather, like a storm or an earthquake even, right? So there's something still lingering in that. But the point is, the animals saw this angel and Balaam did not at first, right? So that's happening. And then, of course, that's the angel of the Lord. So that's not evil. Then you've got Joshua, who was chosen, obviously, by Moses to lead the people after Moses died. And so he's trying to get into the promised land and lead them in there. And he does a thing where he meets an angel, right? And he just appears out of nowhere. And the angel says, or in Joshua says, who are you with? Are you with us or are you with our enemies? And he's like, no. So, no, I'm the representative of the Lord. You take that for what you want, right? And I'm here to make sure his will is done and yada, yada. So again, supernatural, yes. Invisible becomes visible. It's an angel. Who knows how we got there? Just was there and says, I'm on the Lord's side, not on yours. So definitely not negative. Another God positive event, but definitely supernatural or anomalous, right? Okay. The Jordan River gets parted. Okay, not the Red Sea everyone remembers, but also the Jordan, which is not an insignificant river that you can just walk over. It's major, and so for Joshua and the armies of Israel to get through, and then even later with Elijah and Elisha, that period, the Jordan got parted in half till you can cross on the ground. So that happened. Again, not negative. That's a supernatural. That's an anomalous event. God did that, right? All right. Again, staying with Joshua, there was a battle where God somehow the sun and the moon it stopped or something like that, where they got extra time. I'm not here to explain it. I'm just here to relate it. And so clearly not normal. Is it time travel? Is it actually heavenly bodies not moving? Is it the earth not spinning? I don't know, but the point is it happened and God was behind it. It was not evil, clearly. So that's the next thing I could think of. And there's an incident where this is again progressing on through the kingdom of Israel and the prophets and so forth. And you have an incident where angels or an angel kills like a lot of humans. Like the Assyrian, what was it? 100,000, 200,000, 80,000. What the heck was it? Somebody go correct me on that. So that happened. Well, it doesn't look like a positive event, but again, God did that. We know God did that. It was for Israel's protection. It was so his people would, continue to rely on him. It's an angel did it. A good angel killed a lot of people. All right. So anyway, you can make of that what you want, but it was not done by demons or some type of evil angels. It was God. All right. There's that. Elijah's miracles. Elijah had some count. He had 7 miracles. Some say 14. But a bunch of miracles, like things that he couldn't do, a normal person couldn't do, anomalous things, kind of weird stuff. But especially the famous one of calling down fire from heaven. He did that multiple times, actually, to protect himself at one time from being taken, and he's killing soldiers from the king who wants to nab him. And then, of course, the famous one against the prophets of Baal, right? They all show, and Astaroth, right? They all show up and they're challenging him. And if your God is the real God, then make him, bring fire down and consume your sacrifice and that whole thing. You remember, of course, their God could not do that. So the evil was very impotent on that day. And then God, the real God, the good God, came in, sent fire down and destroyed consumed the altar and all the offering on it and the whole thing. We know that. Oh, you should know that story. Again, obviously not evil. In fact, God made the evil angels or the devil look really bad, look really impotent, right? Like he couldn't do anything, but God could. And so there you go. There's that. And then the super famous incident of, I see this is all famous. I assume you all know these stories. I hope you do. Just read your Bible. Elijah is taken up into heaven, right? In a chariot of fire. Chariot of fire. You can't survive a chariots don't burn, again, like burning bushes. But that's what it was called. And he got in it, and he was still alive. And he got in this thing, and there were horses somehow but it went into the sky. Okay, it went into heaven. It flew away. So I would call that a UAP. I would call that. I don't care what the wording is. I don't really think, and maybe it was made to look like a chariot, so he wouldn't be nervous about it. I don't know, but it was a transportation system. Can we agree on that? And it said there were horses in a chariot, but it wasn't normal. It was on fire. It went into the sky. So that's whatever that was not evil. That was not from the devil. Demons can't do that. Only God did that. So this is, hopefully we're seeing a pattern here. So far, I think it's a very big advantage for God and good forces doing these things. Okay, Elijah taken to heaven in a vehicle. And then Elisha, who was his protege, basically his replacement, right? He actually saw this incident with the being taken to heaven in this chariot. Elisha saw it. And by the way, Elijah said, if God will want you to see it, then it's going to be good for you, because then you're going to have miraculous abilities like I did. And so he knew, somehow Elijah knew what was coming, and Elisha was allowed to see it. And therefore he had all these abilities as well, including all his miracles. Some say there were twice the amount of miracles that Elijah had. Elisha said to perform 14 miracles, where Elijah had 7. And they included calling bears to maul people who were making fun of him. So he had the ability to talk to animals, not normal, and to go get those guys. Extra food and oil, like miraculous, like kind of like Jesus. Bread and oil just kept appearing, and it just wouldn't run out. Those were a couple of different situations, and not harmed by poison. There was somebody made some food with like poison plants and whatever in it. Nobody could eat it, but Elisha made it edible, and nobody got poisoned. All that's all anomalous stuff, miraculous stuff. Clearly good. God's behind that. God's prophets behind that. It's good. Elisha, then to me, the most important thing Elisha did was he showed, right? There was this time where they were getting surrounded. The armies, the enemies were coming in against them, and they were surrounded in this valley, right? And it said the servant of Elisha was very nervous. Like, how are we going to get out of here? You're like, how are we going to win? And there's all this army. And Elisha said, he prayed and he said, Lord, show him the truth. Show him that there's more with us than with them. And at that point, he saw what? Chariots of fire, angels, all kinds of stuff on the earth, but just out of view. Right? So they were there or surrounding them or whatever. Maybe they were in the sky. I don't know. But they were there, and they just couldn't be seen except by the prophet. But they're there. And again, not evil, definitely God, good side, right? Good angels, all that stuff. But they're there. All right. So we've got a huge advantage for good and godly stuff versus demonic or satanic phenomenon. Okay, it's almost all God right now. But now we've got the other side coming up. There's what we call some Bibles say the witch of Endor, right? So this is where Saul, the king, who hated David and wanted to know, how is he going to win in battle, yada, yada. He goes to this place, and this woman who has the ability or can call up people from the dead. Of course, that's a no-no to God. We shouldn't be talking to dead people, all y'all out there. But he talks to So somehow she has the power to not raise him from the dead, but bring him, it says, back from Sheol. Okay, Sheol is the grave, the place of the dead souls. And so Samuel, right, because Saul's the prophet, basically, who made Saul the king, right? He comes up, it says, up from Sheol, and he talks to them. So, well, obviously, Samuel is not a bad person. He was a prophet. God is all about Samuel. But the bringing of him up from Sheol by this person called the witch at Endor is not considered a good thing. So we'll chalk that one up to evil or demonic ability of anomalous phenomena. Okay, and it's certainly talking to a dead person, bringing them, from the grave or from the world where they're in to talk to you is not something that you should do. Right? Okay. Of course, Jesus rose from the dead. He's not in the grave. Don't get it twisted there. Okay. Then we're talking about Ezekiel and what he saw, and we're going through this on Monday nights. If you are aware, I'm leading the end time church services on Monday nights, and I've been going through Ezekiel verse by verse, pretty much. And we're up to chapter 11 now, or 10? 11. And we've seen a good bit about this very famous vehicle, and a lot of folks who are maybe not Bible students, let's say nicely, who just assume that UFOs are in the Bible because Ezekiel has this crazy vision, not crazy, but very complex, different, anomalous vision of God on a vehicle. And there's many parts of it. It's described in a very detailed way, not like maybe other places where it just says a chariot, like for Elijah, or Jesus in a cloud. We're getting the real details. We're getting the schematic, okay, of this thing and how it operates, and God's going around on it. He's being transported on it. We can't deny that at all. And there's different facets of it. There's a throne. There's a firmament. It says this barrier or this platform, and under that there's these four, not angels, but creatures with eyes all over and wings and four faces. And then there's these wheels within wheels, spinning, gyrating stuff. All that stuff is part of this vehicle that Ezekiel sees. So that's definitely one of the things we can list. And that's certainly not negative. Jesus is on that thing. That's not bad. That's not a bad angel thing. That's God. All right. So basically, yes, I call it a UFO. Of course I do. Or UAP. That's what Ezekiel saw. Sure. But there's more to it than, well, it's a thing. So therefore, right. But the point is obviously not demonic, not satanic. We have no examples so far of that being a thing at all. But only God so far is doing such things. Okay. Next I have on the list is Daniel's companions in the fire. All right, the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You should know the story of the fiery furnace, right? When King Nebuchadnezzar says, "Everyone bow to me and my statue, my image," and these three won't do it. And so they said, "Okay, you go into the fire because you wouldn't bow to the Gentile Nebuchadnezzar king instead of God." And so they go into the fire. They figure this is the end, right? This is it. We're out of here. We're martyrs now, but they're not. They're not even burned in there. It says they don't even get hot. And in fact, the king sees a fourth man in there, which we know, you should know, or I'm telling you, is Jesus the Messiah before he was born. There he is. Some say the angel of the Lord, whatever. But Nebuchadnezzar even describes him as the Son of Man. So, anyways, that's anomalous, right? That's different. And so this fourth man, whatever he was or whoever he was, just showed up. Just appeared out of nowhere, appeared into the fire, and rescued the other three guys to the point where it says they didn't even smell like smoke. It's as if they were never even there. That's the level of protection or shielding or taking away from the situation. But they weren't removed from it. You could see them. They were seen the whole time. That's why it was so remarkable. Wait a minute, they're not getting burned. What's going on? They're just standing there. And now I see this fourth guy. So that whole incident certainly qualifies to me as anomalous, right? Event that's not normal. And obviously it's God. This is a good thing. Okay, next, Daniel himself was thrown into a pit of lions, which were very hungry, it says, and they should have eaten him right away, but he survived the whole night without being touched by the lions. In fact, the lions weren't even making a big deal out of him being there, because Daniel said an angel was there to shut the lions' mouths. So, again, God is intervening. This is a good, anomalous situation. Not evil, of course. And then as soon as Daniel gets taken out, the guys who set up Daniel in that story, right, they kind of conspired against him to get the king to throw him in there to begin with. The king turns his attention to them, saying, "You fooled me. You guys are really the evil ones." And he throws them in there, and they're immediately eaten. So it's not like the lions weren't hungry. It's the angel, the Lord himself, this supernatural intervention, or this anomalous intervention with animals again, stopped them from eating him. Okay. This one I included, not a lot of people know this, is there was an incident where a king of Israel wants to go do his own thing and not be told that God's not with him. So there's one prophet of God that's actually listening and says, "No, you're going to fail. You shouldn't do this. God's not with you." But all the other prophets are saying, yeah, you're fine. In fact, God says, "Go send a lying one of you." He's talking to his angels up there, or his crew. And he says, "Somebody go tell lies to the prophets of the king to make sure he goes." But it wasn't from God. It was from a lying spirit. So now, God sent it. It was part of God's team. It was an angel of some kind. I'm not chalking that up to negative or demonic or satanic, even though it was a lying spirit. These prophets of Israel were told something not true, but the point is that's a spiritual encounter. That wasn't God speaking to them, but it's a real encounter, and God was behind it. Very good comments going on here that I may have missed. Let's see. Gideon, sure, had an encounter with the Lord and dew on this fleece. Yeah, true. That was I kind of left that out because it was a private conversation. And the having rain on the fleece or not. Yeah, I mean, that technically fits the definition as well. I could have included that. That's true. Madam Rex says, "Fire from heaven burns up his people's offerings, chariots of fire, pillar of fire, fiery furnace." You're getting the theme here from Rex here. "Holy Spirit, tongues of fire or flame, God's wrath poured out, lake of fire, our works are burnt up." You got it. There's definitely a theme there with God, and the good expression, as it were, of these supernatural things. Yes. Sinai, fire on Mount Sinai, of course. Fire everywhere. Yes, no doubt. Bondservant says an angel also appeared to Samson's mom. That's true. Right before he was born, very like John the Baptist. I didn't mention that either. Could have. There's good things to add. This is excellent. But right. There's communications again. A supernatural being appears, and it's not evil, and it's not demonic. Okay, so we're up to, on my list here, Jesus. Okay, finally. That's all Old Testament up to this point. You see how anomalous the Old Testament gets. And Jesus, of course, is born of a virgin. That's maxing out the weird factor, or the anomalous factor. What person has been born without a father, right? Even if your dad's a fallen angel and you're a giant, you still had a mom and a dad. Well, the Holy Spirit, it says, overshadowed Mary, and she was a virgin, and she never was with a man, and yet she got pregnant. Okay, clearly not evil. That's good. I mean, from the good side, right? That's God doing that. Clearly. Okay, next. We skip right over John the Baptist, his parents being visited by Gabriel. I'll just add that now. Gabriel, the angel, visits Zechariah, right, the dad, and he doesn't believe him, so he can't talk. Again, it's celestial, a being that shows up out of nowhere, talks to you, or talks to a person, and he's not believed, and there's a consequence to that. But anyways, that was John the Baptist's parents. But now Jesus, he's born a virgin, and he gets baptized by John, his cousin. And there's, again, a famous incident of, depending on which part you're reading or which gospel you're reading this in, there was a voice from heaven saying, "This is my beloved son." And John at least says, "I saw the Holy Spirit coming upon him at that time in the form of a dove or like a bird." So he saw something. He saw an apparition or a spirit, and he heard a voice from heaven. And obviously, this is good. This is God. This is positive. But it wasn't seen by everyone who was there. There are a lot of witnesses at this baptism, and there was a lot of people who didn't hear anything. And that was even remarked on. So how is that possible? God can speak and not everyone can hear him. Or not everyone does hear him. Whether that's their choice or not, I'm not sure. But it's not and this is like a UFO experience, isn't it? Like some people will see it and the next, possibly a person right in the same area won't. Or hear things, and some people won't. Or see beings, and some people won't. That's not necessarily demonic. I mean, that happened when God did it. Okay. After he's baptized, he goes into the desert, right? Into the wilderness, outside of Israel, into these mountainous areas in the desert, right outside the border. And he's tempted by the devil. So Satan actually shows up. And there's a supernatural showdown out here, right? You got, call Satan what you will, an angel or whatever. He's a creature who's not a human, and he appears out of nowhere. Just boom, he's in the desert with Jesus after 40 days of him not eating, and obviously very weak, and I'm sure wants to, his body wants to give up. And so then the tempter shows up and tries to get him to worship him instead of, being who he should, and get him to doubt himself, and to give control over to him, to the point where he takes him supernaturally somehow. The devil takes Jesus to the temple. They weren't in Israel, in the Jerusalem at all, but yet he's transported somehow to the temple by Satan. The devil puts him on the top of the temple and says, "Jump off. If you're really the Son of God, he'll save you." Right? That. And of course he says no. And then he says he takes him to it's a kind of ambiguous. He says it takes him to a very high mountain and shows him all the kingdoms of the world. Well, how does that happen? That's a really high mountain. Okay. Like what? The space station? The moon? Like, what are you talking about? How do you see all the kingdoms of the world? It also says in the King James, anyway, something like in a moment of time. And that might just mean all at once, like all the great kingdoms and show them at the same moment. This is all, or is it time traveling? Or is he transporting him to the future when all the world's kingdoms will be at their peak? Like, let's say today, you have skyscrapers everywhere and giant, billions of dollars worth of stuff and millions and billions of people, and way bigger and better than it was then, to be honest with you. Maybe he brought him to the future and said, "This is what I'm going to take over. All right, this is going to be mine. I'm going to give it to you. All you have to do is worship me instead." Right? So this is very supernatural stuff. And you can say that's a negative, right? That because the devil did that. Okay. Yes, he did. He did. Okay. Easy, right? So he can appear. Apparently, he was on the earth, and then he's taking him places. So there's that to consider. But at the end of that time, that desert temptation period, Jesus said he sends him away. He sent Satan away. And from that point on in the scriptures, and for the whole rest of the Bible, Satan is never on the earth again. I mean, seen by anyone. He has never been seen again. It's only a spiritual his spirit was around. There's only one other incident that I'm going to mention here in a minute that even comes close to that until the very end of the book. So it's what I'm saying is it's very possible that Satan is he cannot leave where he is physically. Like he can't be doing UFO things. He can't be flying around. He can't be appearing to you or anyone else as anything. He may not be allowed. He may be restricted, withheld, held back. And there are scriptures on all of that. But before we get there, there's another incident in the life of Jesus where the Father is heard speaking in this, what we call the Mount of Transfiguration. Jesus takes his three closest disciples, Peter, Paul, and John, up to Peter, James, and John, up to this mount somewhere. The mountain is, maybe it's the same mountain that the fallen angels came down on in Genesis 6. That's a theory. We don't really know for sure, but it's a high mountain, and he's transformed, it says. Transformed, and now he's talking to dead men. He's talking to Elijah and Moses, who again had very anomalous experiences on mountains, on Mount Sinai. They both did, actually. And here we are on a mountain, not Sinai, but something's going on where he's talking to them as if they're perfectly fine and alive, and he now looks totally different. Jesus it says he's transformed. He looks glorious and bright and incredibly white, shining. Something's happening up there. And then the Father speaks again, and they hear him now. And this was only 3 people, but they're blown away. Peter's like, well, we should build some shelters, some tents for you, like tabernacles, and this whole thing. And Jesus is like, don't tell anybody about this. He turns back to normal. Elijah and Moses are gone. He was talking to them about going to the cross, right? So some big, deep conversations, and then that was it. Well, clearly that was not evil. That was God doing his thing, Jesus doing his thing. And then, of course, you got the many, many miracles of Jesus walking on water. Before that, food, the bread and the fish, wine and water into wine, healing countless people. And not only that, but knowing people's thoughts. He knew people's thoughts. He knew what the Pharisees were thinking. He knew when people were trying to trip him up. He knew what was in their heart. He knew the history of the woman at the well. He knows past, present, and future. That's all anomalous phenomena. Okay, that's all, whatever you want to call that, or whatever kind of power, or however. That clearly is not evil. It's clearly, even as Christians, you could say, well, aren't we supposed to do those things? Why not? If it's the same Spirit of God, then maybe we should be. But anyway, clearly not bad. Many miracles, awesome stuff, all that, and walking on water. So he's not only in control of mental, or he's in your mind. He knows what your thoughts are. He can supernaturally give extra food, change molecules, create things out of nothing, reproduce things out of nothing, make diseases go away. So he's changing the physiology of human bodies. And then he's actually has authority over, well, that all kind of falls into authority over nature, I guess, but he's actually demonstrating over what everyone thinks the humans don't have any power over, which is the Mother Nature, right? The sea, walking on it. Instead of being in trouble on a boat, he's out there walking on a boat. And there's another part where he says there's a big storm, a hurricane basically is happening, and he's like, shush, be quiet, and the storm stops. So he has power over nature. His body can literally walk on top of water. That defies physics. Okay, that we don't know how that happens. We can't explain that. But that's anomalous. That's a phenomenon, and that happened. And that whole incident where he walked to the water and it was on the boat and all, and the little phrase right at the end of that story, which most people maybe miss, is They instantly arrived at the shore. They were in the middle of the Sea of Galilee, which is big. I've been there. I took a boat across it. It took a while to get across it, but they were in the middle of it, so at least 3 miles out, and then all of a sudden, instantly, boom, they're on the shore. So he has the ability to, over time and space, in that case. Okay, a lot of this fits maybe the UFO UAP phenomenon, right? How are we doing this? How are they defying the laws of physics? How are they zipping around in the water? How are they going to space at tremendous speeds? How are they disappearing and reappearing? How are they or do they have control over space-time, right? Are they warping through space-time, appearing at different points in time and space and all that? Well, that's happened before, but it hasn't been demonic. It hasn't been evil. This has been God. Okay, and I mentioned before about Satan entering. Well, I didn't say it, but Satan entering Judas. It says Satan entered Judas. So not the physical person, Satan, right? But his spirit went inside a human body. That happened. And of course, Judas, this is when he betrayed Jesus and so forth. So you have that incident, and you also have many incidents where Jesus and the disciples were casting out demons out of people. So there are other entities. No, this is not sicknesses. These are not diseases like normal, because there were very normal healings that happened. They had this disease, now they don't. But then there's also demons who were possessing people, who were causing problems in your body, or making you throw yourself into fire, or having seizures and so forth, or being breaking shackles because you're so strong all of a sudden, right? All these things are in the Bible. But it's because you have demons inside of you. So again, I just want to point this out. Obviously, demons, and Jesus explains this, when you have these issues, even if you get a demon cast out, there can be more that will come back in. So demons enter people, and of course, Jesus and disciples could cast them out. And pigs, by the way. Demons can go into pigs, right? Demons said, don't send us to the abyss and judge us. We want to send us to those pigs instead. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about all that. But the point is, so demons are inhabiting living things. That's demonic. That's satanic. That's dark. That's evil. Right? But that's different than what we're seeing with God. So between that, and like Genesis 6 and like, so you see demonic. So when demonic or fallen angels are involved, they're forcing themselves like into human bodies, right? You're seeing demons possess people. You're seeing Satan enter into Judas. You're seeing the fallen angels. Don't mean to be gross, but they're forcing their entering into human women. There's nothing that says those women consented, by the way. And again, just thinking through that whole process, if giants were the result, giant people were the result of those pregnancies, then I don't see how a woman could survive the birth. I mean, it's really gross to think of, actually. But anyways, so that's demonic, right? That's impregnating people against your will, going into your body, violating your sovereignty, so to speak, right? That's evil and demonic. I got it. That makes sense. Okay, what's next on my list here? Demons entering, Satan entering. Then Jesus himself, when his ministry was proceeding, he would do some unbelievable stuff other than walking on water. He would actually disappear before he raised from the dead, by the way. This is just, I don't want to say regular Jesus, but just like us, he disappeared literally and walked through a whole crowd without being touched. I mean, really, go read that. How did that happen? That was a miracle. Right? That's anomalous. That's utilizing the unseen world or something. But he walked through the crowd untouched, invisible. Then after he rose from the dead, and yes, he did rise from the dead. That's what Christians believe. That's what we have to believe. He never sinned and went to the cross for our sins, and he rose from the dead. Hallelujah. And he's coming back. But the point is, after the resurrection, he was walking through walls. The doors were locked and closed, and boom, there he is in the room. He wasn't in the room, and now he is. How did that happen? Right. So he has authority, or he's power over anomalous things, right? Time and space, or solid objects. Not a problem. You can go right through them, whether the crowd or the doors in the locked room, appearing and disappearing at will. This is a UFO. This is a UAP conversation. Is it not? They're appearing and reappearing. They're doing things that we can't explain. They're going to solid objects, like a mountain. We've seen this on video. It's proof. Okay, it's not speculation. It's not a theory. It's not a crazy person seeing something. We have it on video and many instruments where UFOs, UAPs, going into solid objects, through walls, into mountains, and out the other side, as if it wasn't even there. So, right, to me, that's pretty analogous to what Jesus was doing. Again, obviously, it can't be demonic. It's not evil. This is Jesus doing these things. It's God. So disappearing at will, going through walls, walking through people, invisible, all that stuff. That's good. That's godly stuff. Paul, the Apostle Paul, he went through many, many things in his walk after he was converted. Even that, I didn't even include that. Paul saw and heard Jesus, but the people on the road to Damascus, right? He wasn't a believer. He was persecuting the church, the Christians at that time. He assented. He gave permission for Stephen to be stoned in public. That was the first Christian martyr. But anyway, so Paul is now speaking to Jesus, and Jesus knocks him down. He hears and sees him, but he said the others with me couldn't. They heard a voice, but didn't see anything. Again, that phenomena is happening. But Jesus is already in heaven. He already rose. He ascended to heaven in a cloud, right? That's what it says in Acts chapter 1. And here it is in Paul years later, or whatever, resurrected Jesus is talking to him. He sees him in a vision, and now he talks to him. And this is how Apostle Paul is born, basically. This is how he goes to all the Gentiles now and spreads the gospel, and the church explodes because of what happened there on that day. I didn't even include that. That was stupid. But then Paul himself performed many miracles. He would be healing people left and right, same as Jesus. He was stoned, but he didn't die. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. You get stoned in your brain, you're out. You're done. Your bones are broken. You're finished. He didn't die. He was bitten by poisonous snakes. No big deal. In fact, it's like he never was bit at all. He just shook it off. Literally, shake it off. He shook it off right to the fire and continued on his way that night. And it says the people watching him thought he was a criminal at first. He was evil because he got bit. He must be, the gods must be sending this to punish him because he was evil and he got off of that ship, and he's really not good. But now all of a sudden he's not even hurt by the snake, and the snake's dead. And he's not a criminal, he's a god, right? So that happened. And then I just went right to Revelation, the book. Hey, later, bondservant. Sorry, I know I'm going on a bit here. But we're almost done. So the book of Revelation itself has obviously a tremendous number of anomalous things, phenomenon happening. Angels are intervening like crazy. There's all kinds of stuff happening. Many interventions by good angels, right? The trumpets, the announcing the this and that, the 7 churches. I mean, you name it. There's tons of good angel activity, even the war in heaven, right? With Michael and his angels fought against Satan and his angels. And then at the end of the process, Satan and his angels come back to the earth. That's the only time in the Bible that he's back on the earth since he tempted Jesus, by the way. in a body form, he himself. Anyway, so that happens, but good angels and fallen angels, and from heaven, like we said in Revelation 12, they're cast out of heaven, so they're in heaven right now. But they're there, and not only in heaven, but under the Euphrates River. It says they're chained up in the Euphrates River. Some 4 really bad angels, they're chained up in the Euphrates, and they'll be released at some point near the end. And then, of course, in Revelation 9, you get a bunch of, call them demons if you want, or just evil creatures coming up from this abyss, this hole, this crevice, this volcano. I don't know what this is, but definitely there's both. Okay, Revelation, you have tons of good, supernatural, anomalous things happening, and negative, right? Both of them are in there. And then, of course, it ends with, or throughout the book, it talks about the return of Jesus in a vehicle from the sky, in a vehicle. Some of the scriptures say in a cloud, but some say on a white horse. I think they're both figures of speech. I think he's just riding a vehicle like he did in Ezekiel. That's my view. And then that's the end. Okay, right? Then we've got judgment and all that stuff. But the point is, there's tons of stuff in Revelation that fit both of the good side and the evil. Okay, so out of all of that, let's tally it up. And I just put in bold. You probably can't see that. It's probably not formatting over. Sorry about that. But out of all those things, I've got about 30, 31, 32 total incidents. And as far as what's demonic or evil, that's anomalous phenomena. We're talking about things flying in the sky. We're talking about things in bodies. We're talking about miraculous events. We're talking about things not burning. We're talking about, seas being parted, all kinds of just walking on water, time traveling, disappearing, all that stuff that you could definitely talk about in a UFO, UAP talk. Out of all the incidents in the Bible, out of 30 plus that I just listed there, I've got 6, really 5.5 that are demonic. Genesis 6, Pharaoh's magicians, the witch of Endor calling up Samuel, Satan in the desert tempting Jesus, and then demons entering people, or Satan entering someone, and then half of Revelation. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's call it 6. Maybe it's 5.5. Maybe it's 6.5. Let's call it 6 out of 30 something. That's like 1 of 5. That's 20%. So just Philip too. Good point. Philip was, and I should add that. Yeah, Philip was taken, supernaturally disappeared. He baptized the Ethiopian government official, right? Who God said, the Holy Spirit said, go get that, go catch up to that chariot. This guy's talking about me. And he did, and he witnessed to him, and he baptized him right there in the river. And then boom, he's transported. He not only disappears, but Philip, he's just a disciple. He's just a regular guy. He's not, he's still alive, normal guy, and he's transported. He's taken miles away to a different city instantly. Thank you. Okay. Very good. So I've got at the most 20% of the anomalous phenomena in the Bible being evil. 20%. That means 80% it's not. So, to me, this is a very clear caution to those who would say, to assume and to reflexively, knee-jerk reaction. Maybe I'm talking to you right now, maybe I'm not, but if you see a UFO and your first comment is, that's a demon manifesting, you're clueless. I'm sorry, that's mean. But you really don't know what you're talking about, because there's 0 incidents in the Bible where that happens. 0. We'll save this for another time. Now, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying there's no there's not a negative possibility or a connotation, or we got to think about this more. But that's my point, is think about it more. Don't reflexively just react to say, I saw a UFO, or I see it on video, this must be a demon. What is that about? There's no, demons can't do that. Where? All right. Demons, if you want to be serious about it, are earthbound. They can't appear as anything. They're spirits. Right? Okay, though, fallen angels. Okay. Where do they appear as anything different than what they look like? Do they use a vehicle to travel around? Maybe. But again, there's no Bible on it. The only thing I can imagine is folks make a whole doctrine. Yeah, excuse me. Make a whole doctrine out of 2 sentences by Apostle Paul, basically, about the prince of the power of the air being Satan, and we tend to think, okay, what does that mean? Just because things are happening in the air that we can't explain, it means it's Satan? You can't say that. Why does he allow airplanes to missionaries? You know what I mean? Like taking the gospel to the ends of the earth on an airplane. If the air belongs to him, why wouldn't he just, you know what I'm saying? I think there's more to that than we know. I think we're mistaken to think it's the air that we can see, or our regular old atmosphere. And just because we see UFOs in our atmosphere, somehow that's satanic. It doesn't compute. There's way more info you need than to make that decision, to make that statement. Especially as a Christian, you're supposed to know what you're talking about. And we're supposed to have backup on this, not opinions or baseless, say, oh yeah, that's in the Bible, when it's not. That's a problem. What else? What other thing would he say? There's a great deception. Okay. Yeah, of course. That's the end times drama, right? Yes, there's a great deception. But what's the point of it? And what does it look like? None of that's in there. False miracles by the false prophet. Okay, well, now we're talking about the very, very, very end of the age. It's not yet. And that false prophet has to be on the scene. He has to be a person. You have to see him doing things. Anyway, that's a whole nother can of fish. But Shalom. Yaakov. What's up, brother? That's Jacob. Yaakov. Okay, so any questions? Now is the time to do it. I hope this survey has helped people to see what's going on a little bit better. All right. Hey, Eric, I see your awesome question. Hang on. I'm not Yehudi. Is that a Jewish person saying Yehudi? I don't know. I'm a Gentile saved by grace in the Jewish Messiah. So I love the Jews. You have concerns? Okay, Yaakov. Did you listen to any of the hour-long episode and know what we're talking about? If so, yes, you may ask concerns. If not, please watch first and then ask me later on the comments. Eric, Revelation 12:9. Will Satan be thrown down to the earth and trigger supernatural manifestations? Well, now that is, he will be for sure, right? That's Bible. We know that has not happened yet. And a lot of Christians maybe think it has, and it hasn't. But when it does, manifestations, I guess, I think there's a lot. Look, I don't know what Satan and his angels look like, but it seems like we're going to find out. So in terms of them themselves, again, like we're assuming a lot. As believers, we assume all the time. Like we assume that when Satan and his angels are cast to the earth, that we're not going to see them. Why would you assume that? Maybe that's just another way of saying, or to be on the earth means you can't be hiding in heaven. In other words, you have no access to that realm to be hidden anymore. Maybe you have to be seen. Maybe you have to see Satan and his angels exactly as they look. I don't know, but we got to think that that's possible. Right? So instead of, assuming that just means your run-of-the-mill, like you're saying, demonic activity, they're not demons. We know that. Okay, fallen angels are not demons. I know what you mean. I'm pretty sure I know what you mean by demonic, meaning evil entities. Okay, but demons themselves, remember, are not angels. They are not in the heavenlies. They're not in the sky. They're not with Satan now. They're bound to humans or on the earth looking for someone to possess. That's what Jesus told us. That's different. So will it trigger? I would think for sure, at least because we're told that same time that Satan and his angels are cast out, that this false prophet character in Revelation 13 is empowered with miracles to deceive the world. So are they exactly correlated 1-to-1? Probably. Or they at least coincide. Where Satan now says, okay, remember I told Jesus, I'm going to give you my kingdom, all these kingdoms, if you just worship me. Well, now we've got this Antichrist on the scene. Okay, you worship me, now you get all the kingdoms. Like now that can happen, and the associated, miracles and demonic, if you want to call it that, stuff comes from that. So yes, on that, in that way, yeah. Sorry for the long answer. As a Jew myself, by the way, thank you for saying so, and thank you for being a part of the show here. And I serve a Jewish Messiah, Yeshua, as Ruach HaKodesh is present right now in this conversation. As a Jew myself, what is evil? Transgression of the law, and whom brought forth evil as evil? I'm sorry, this is not making sense. Is just sin? Was it actually Eve? Not Adonai's prized possession, Lucifer the archangel. Okay, hold on. We got a lot of stuff going there. Prized possession. We know that Satan or Lucifer went bad. Okay, and that he was in the Garden of Eden, and he's the one who presented this bad option to Adam and Eve. And that created the problem, right? They listened to him instead of God. Yehovah, right? I don't like Adonai. Adonai just means Lord. So they listened instead of to their father, to the serpent, this shining one, the Natscash, the liar. Said, you won't really die. You're going to know everything if you do this. So that's sin. Right? Evil is evil, but people sin. You transgress the law, but you can come into, with Yeshua and the cross, you can come into right standing with him and be forgiven of those transgressions. The God of the earth that's the other sentence I was going to bring up. But the God of this world. Remember, Yeshua says the God of this world is Satan, but he has been cast out. In other words, he doesn't have power over you if you're one of mine. That's his authority because of what Adam and Eve gave up, right? It was theirs, but now he has control, but he doesn't get to do what he wants because God cursed him. The serpent, remember, says you're going to be cursed to eat dust the days of your life, and it just so happens that Adam and Eve are made of dust. So he's obsessed with humans. Satan, for whatever else, or Lucifer, whatever else he could do or was up to or planned on, he is now cursed to just be obsessed with human beings. That's what I believe. Demons are not fallen angels. Nope, they are not. Well, the Talmud is not scripture. And there are others that tell us exactly what demons are. And they're the spirits of those Nephilim, those ones that were produced from fallen angels, mating with humans. And they're bound to the earth. So created by fallen angels, okay. But demons are a whole nother thing. Doesn't it say God loves the children of God like a mother can't forget her children? Like mother can't forget her children, so it's explicit God still loves him, no doubt, but punish him. He's referred to the morning star. No, he doesn't. No. Satan is Ezekiel and Isaiah tell you clearly he's in open rebellion and usurping of the throne of God. God has judged him. It says he's already been judged. New Testament tells you that. If maybe you don't know the New Testament. So he says that his God of this world has already been judged. Satan's already been judged. It's over. He's here for God's purposes now, to be obsessed with humans and to eventually go into the lake of fire. That's the purpose. Remember, the lake of fire is to destroy the devil and his angels. So there you go. All right, guys, we're done for the day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the awesome input and questions. And again, see below for the list of anomalous phenomena that, as far as I can tell, is about 80% not evil. So let's not assume too much when we see these things happening in the world. That hopefully, if we're believers, we have the Holy Spirit to tell us what's what, and let's not assume, because it's going to get bumpy out here for sure. All right. Until next time, Lord willing, we'll see you on Monday night for End Time Church and back here for Unsealed. This has been Wings of the Eagle. Bye-bye.